YouTube, thanks for stopping in. So one of my viewers asked if I would create a video, tips for creating an indoor grow space. Grow space is something I know a little bit about. Obviously, you can see my whole entire collection is indoors for the winter time. I keep all of my orchids indoors because it's just way too cold to keep them outside. They wouldn't survive. And I'm sure that's something that a lot of you as well can relate to. Maybe you don't live in Hawaii or Puerto Rico or the south of Florida, and maybe you don't have a fancy greenhouse, but that doesn't mean that you can't grow orchids. Now, it is a little bit more difficult, but it is still something that is doable. You guys remember my monster Cattleya? Here she is. This is my Cattleya estrella. If you did not get the chance to see this wonderful, majestic lady in bloom, check out my video. Again, this is the Cattleya estrella, and I grew and flowered her indoors. So she had no blooms whenever I first purchased her. She did have sheaths, but the bud development all happened when she was indoors for the winter. And also this Cattleya here, this is my Brasso-Layla Cattleya Husky Boy Romeo. He also flowered while indoors. I call him a he because, you know, Romeo. He also grew this entire new lead, the sheath, and these beautiful buds and flowers while indoors. So it is entirely possible to grow your orchids indoors. Don't be discouraged if there's a flower or an orchid that you really, really love and you're afraid you won't be able to grow it indoors. Here are my tips for growing orchids indoors. Okay, so we will start with the light source, pretty much the most important thing for growing orchids indoors because obviously you don't have many options. The first thing to consider when choosing a space for your orchids is to choose an area of your house or apartment that gets a lot of strong light. If you can grow your orchids on a balcony, that's probably the best place to grow them because they will be getting a lot of that natural light. Now, I don't have a balcony. I do have a screened-in porch, but it's not heated, so I have chosen a south-facing window. Two south-facing windows, really. So this is all the light that my orchids will receive, and I've got a lot of them, and they're all different genera. Mostly Cattleyas over here. These guys are all Cattleyas. That's my Ludicea discolor cutting. But everything you're seeing over here is pretty much a Cattleya, except that right there, which is my Moniara Millennium Magic Witchcraft. Now, if you're worried about a south-facing window creating too much strong light, I recommend getting one of these shelves. These can be purchased pretty much anywhere. I purchased this one, I believe, at Lowe's, and it was $35, maybe $35, maybe less. I can't remember. But it's just a super cheap, you know, almost flimsy shelf, but I keep all of my, most of my orchids on it, and then I have some side tables that I keep my orchids on. Actually, only one of my orchids is on the windowsill. It gets so much strong light, even in the wintertime, that I can't keep very much on there, otherwise it'll burn. For some reason that Cattleya is just loving being on the windowsill, so I've kept him there. And that's something that you really have to watch with your orchids. If you start to notice that they get discolored leaves, the browning, the typical signs of sunburn, you're going to want to pull them away from the window. And that's pretty much how I'm able to grow so many different genera in the same grow space, is that I have my highlight lovers like my Cattleyas as close to the window as possible, and then the orchids that don't like as much light, here's a Maxillaria, here's a Phalaenopsis, another Phalaenopsis, they're kept more away from the window. So that's how I'm able to keep them happy, keep them healthy, but they still get a lot of light. And the other orchids that are in front of them sort of give them that dappled light effect. Now, if you want to keep Cattleyas and other highlight orchids, Oncidiums and such, Vandas, and you don't have a south-facing window, you're probably going to want to invest in a grow light. This is the grow light that I have. It is a T5 high output fluorescent lighting system, 2 feet long with 4 tubes. And I was able to grow all of my tomatoes under this, so I don't have any orchids under it currently, but for most of the year I have my orchids under here. But if you don't have a south-facing window, I would probably invest in a grow light. Another important factor for a lot of orchids is humidity. Humidity is important for orchids because they have growths that need that high humidity to be able to break through those sheaths. And for a lot of orchids, they have aerial roots, and those aerial roots need that humidity to be able to have these green growing tips. So humidity is just another important factor. It's not as important if you have to grow your orchids indoors and your humidity isn't terribly high. It's not the end of the world, but you might see some wrinkling of the leaves, you might see some accordion-shaped leaves, and you might actually have to cut open any sheaths that form, say on your cattleyas, because the orchid isn't able to do it itself. This humidifier that I have was purchased off Amazon. I'm sure there's many different ones on Amazon. Really, all you need is a humidifier. Another thing that you can do to keep your orchids with high humidity is to place them inside of a cachet pot. So this orchid in particular is my Brassivola cuculata, and as you see, it is mounted on a stick. You may think it's impossible to grow a Brassivola cuculata on a stick indoors, but like I said, keeping it in this cachet pot here has really done wonders for elevating the humidity. You can see all of these new roots that it's put out. See the green growing tips there? So it is getting plenty of humidity, and you really do have to stay on top of watering as well. You can see that root there too. So cachet pots are just another way to keep your orchids happy and humidified while indoors. Something else as well are humidity trays. Now, I wouldn't recommend placing water at the bottom because then the water is shared between all of the orchids, which can increase your chances for contraction of a virus. Not all of the time will orchids with a virus present symptoms. They can often be very, very healthy, vigorous growers, and you would never know that they had a virus. So that's why it's imperative not to share water between orchids. But I do like the humidity trays because any water that does come out of the pots, it's not going to ruin your carpets and floors for one thing, but also it does add a little bit of humidity, not a whole lot. Like I said, a lot of factors go into creating humidity indoors, and every little bit helps. Now, I also recommend placing orchids within close proximity to each other. I know that also increases chances for contraction of a virus, but it's not as high of a chance. I keep mine close together, not entirely close. I don't know how to describe it, but as you can see, I'm getting, a new growth on this Miltassia Charles M. Fitch, and a new growth on this, I think it's a Brassidium? No, Odobrassia? I don't remember. And this one's getting a new growth as well. Creating a humid environment really takes a lot of things. And if you don't have a humidifier, you can increase the humidity around your plants by keeping them close together, keeping them inside of these humidity trays. And also, if you can, open your windows. If you have humidity outside, try to open them. It not only gives the orchids a fresh breeze, but it can also add a little bit of humidity to your grow space. Now, even if you've been doing everything right and you've been increasing the humidity around your plants, you can still get cases where your orchids will show you how much they don't like the low humidity in your grow space. So even though I would consider my humidity to be okay right now, it's still not at where it should be. But as I said, it's not the end of the world. As you can see, this Cattleya here has created a new lead. And helping this new lead is a sheath, which is this green casing here. And I'm probably going to have to cut it because it's creating this wrinkle in the leaf, and there's actually a bud sheath right there. So this is where new buds are going to come out of, and I'm pretty sure it's impeding the growth of this leaf here, so I'm probably going to have to cut it. Otherwise, a very, very healthy leaf, nice and glossy. But The low humidity in this grow space has led to a little bit of a wrinkle in the newly formed leaf. Now here we have my Moniara Millennium Magic Witchcraft. It is huge. And I just wanted to point out the way that I increase humidity for it and to sort of sum up what I'm trying to say about increasing humidity in your grow space. Look at all the happy sap on it. Wow. I haven't pulled this out and actually looked at it. There's a lot of happy sap on this guy here. All of these secretions here, orchids generally produce it when they're really, really happy, so that's why I call it happy sap. So this is my Moniara Millennium Magic Witchcraft, and if you guys know about catasetums, one thing that is crucial for them is high humidity. They need high humidity. It's absolutely imperative that they have it because they do have these succulent leaves here, and you can see mine are wrinkling a little bit, even though this guy does get quite a lot of humidity. So I have him growing inside of this cachet pot to keep the area around his growth and roots humid, and I also have him growing in sphagnum moss. So if you're having trouble with humidity, adding a top layer, a top dressing of sphagnum moss and keeping that moist, depending on the orchid, you don't want to overdo it, but keeping that sphagnum moss moist on top is another way to increase humidity. Okay guys, to sort of sum up everything that I've been talking about, let's go over some key points of improving our grow spaces indoors. So the first thing, of course, for growing your highlight loving orchids indoors is your light source. South-facing windows are the best. And if you have a south-facing window that gets too much strong light, you can always change it with the addition of a sheer curtain or blinds. Whereas if you have a low light facing window, like a north facing window, there's not much that you can do to improve the light coming in. Now you can use the addition of a grow light, but if you're wanting to keep things natural and keep things on the cheaper side, then you're going to want to choose a location in a house, or if you're moving somewhere, you're going to want to choose a place that has a south-facing window. The things that we do for our orchids. What I want to do is maximize your grow space. So choosing a shelf. You can choose as expensive or as cheap as you want. This one is just a rickety one that I got from Lowe's for $30. Next thing is you're going to want to increase humidity around your plants, especially those that have a lot of aerial roots, as you see this one here. So keeping your plants close together, although not so scrunched up, you see there's space in the middle there. Keeping them close together increases humidity, and the addition of a humidity tray also increases humidity for your plants. Also the use of a cachet pot, placing your orchid either mounted or in its own pot into a much larger, preferably a ceramic or one that doesn't have any holes in the sides. Placing it into a decorative pot can also increase the humidity for your orchid. Also opening a window. If you can open your window and get that nice breeze in there, it really does benefit your indoor orchids. Opening your window can also increase the humidity for your plants. Right now, the humidity outside in my area is about 90%. So I have opened my window to increase the humidity for my indoor plants. Another thing to improve your grow space is a humidity and temperature meter in your grow space. The indoor portion of this device actually broke. For some reason, it just doesn't want to work. So I actually ended up having to have the indoor meter, actually there's something that comes with this, and I have it on the windowsill, that white thing right there. It measures the temperature and the humidity, so I actually have it inside, even though it says outdoor. But these are very, very valuable for your grow space. Right now it's 66 degrees Fahrenheit and 58% humidity inside my grow space. This is just going to help you keep track of the temperature and the humidity inside your grow space. Another valuable tool in your grow space is the use of a small fan. Air circulation is crucial for your orchids. If you guys remember, I did a video for you guys on my Paphiopedilum seedlings. These guys were deflasked in July of last year, I believe. And you can see that even though the sphagnum moss there is wet, the use of the small fan that I have keeps air circulation around the Paphiopedilums, and that way they are not sitting in water. Stagnant air in your grow space can create a lot of issues for your orchids. This one was a rescue that I picked up at my local orchid society, so it wasn't healthy to begin with, and then I actually made the mistake of not having good air circulation around it, and the air was kind of stagnant, and I watered it trying to get it to recover, and actually the newest growth here suffered some rot. So that's unfortunate. Hopefully it will be able to make a comeback. If not, I actually have the same cross of this one, and I'm hoping it'll be able to make a recovery because it does have green leaves still. There are some older growths that are, they're hard. It just means that the pseudobulbs are being used, the energy is being used. So I'm hoping that by keeping it in a well-ventilated area now, and watering it when it needs it, hopefully it will be able to make a recovery. Okay guys, so I hope these tips have been helpful for you. I think that's all we can really discuss about keeping orchids indoors. I'm probably forgetting something, so if you have any questions or comments, please leave them down in the comments section of this video and I will respond to them. Thank you guys so much for tuning into my channel and following me on Facebook and Twitter. I love seeing any new additions that you guys add to your collection. So thank you so much for the pictures of your orchids. And if you don't follow me on Facebook or Twitter, be sure to follow me. I post updates on my collection, any flowers that come into bloom, like this dendrobium here. This is Dendrobium nobile. This is Love Memory Fizz. So I've already posted pictures on Facebook and Twitter, and as always, subscribe to my channel for more videos like this one in the future. Thank you guys for watching. I'll see you later.